Okay, if we could have your attention, please. We are now joined by Denny Hamlin, driver of the number 11 FedEx Express Toyota for Joe Gibbs Racing. Denny, Richmond certainly has been a great track for you. 3 wins, defending race winner. Can you just talk a little bit about what success here means to you, as well as your outlook heading into the playoffs?
Yeah, it's definitely been a good track. We've finished really well. We've ran really well the last couple times here, so really looking forward to it. It's been one that's kind of been circled for a while. We like trying to win this race before the playoffs start and trying to get the momentum. I feel like we have momentum, so everything's going good. Cars are good, so I don't see any reason why we can't contend this time around also.
Great. We'll open it up for questions. If you have a question, please raise your hand. We'll get a microphone to you. We'll start over here with Claire and then come over to Bob and back to Jerry.
Claire Beeline, Sirius XM NASCAR Radio. I'm sorry to jump right into this, but I've been talking about it a lot. When you win and go to victory lane and you had such a great weekend, how do you hear that then the win is encumbered? When do you hear about it? How devastating is it? And, what's the spirit of your team?
I heard, something, on Monday or so, I think later on Monday or early Tuesday, that, it was questionable and, needed further review. As far as I understand, my crew chief went and saw it for himself on Wednesday, and he deemed it not right. So I would agree with the assessment.
What's the feeling to go from victory lane to that?
Well, it sucks because I know personally it had nothing to do with winning the races. I'd won 5 other races at that track well before that. I'd love to line them up again. I mean, it's that track is special to me. It was a special weekend, all in all, and it took something that was super positive and turned it to a negative pretty quick.
We'll take our next question from Bob.
Bob Hockers, ESPN. Do you feel the penalty kind of fits the violation? And, there's a lot of talk about maybe they should take wins away. And how do you feel on that?
Yeah, I think it fits. I think that, we can talk about taking wins away in the future. I think that it's definitely a possibility as long as everything is, it's the same for everyone. I think is key is make sure is that when someone else is in there with the same violation, it gets the same penalty and treatment, even if it's in the playoffs. And I think, that's what makes me nervous is that, in the playoffs, is NASCAR going to do the same things when so much is on the line? I mean, obviously it's negative publicity for everyone involved. So I just hope that it's the same. And I'm fine with taking wins away. That's got nothing wrong with that.
Okay, we'll go over to Jerry and then Hank and then Matt.
Jerry Jordan, kicking the tires.net and PRN. Along those lines, is it the same when a win is encumbered for someone who has a win versus someone like Joey, that was his only win? He said he believes so, but do you feel it's the same? Because there was some pontification on TV earlier this week that there may or may not be feel the same anyway.
Well, I think it's different on how you perform throughout the other regular season. If I didn't have a win, if you took away Darlington, I'd still have my New Hampshire win. If you took away my New Hampshire win, I still am in on points. So what's the difference? I ran good enough through the regular season to get in the playoffs. The 22s hadn't performed high enough, in the entire regular season. So yeah, it's a tougher penalty for those guys, no doubt about it. And trust me, we feel their pain. I mean, we their Xfinity car didn't pass either, and that was the challenging part. Is that you look at all the cars that went through Tech, and over 50% of them never made it through the Tech Center from Darlington. And my opinion is, we build in tolerances, and that track ate up those tolerances. And we had never been, that process had never been done after that racetrack ever before. And so now we have a data point that we got to build in a bigger tolerance for that racetrack, because you hit walls, you get sand and dirt in all your joints, and it loosens them up. So you've got to just we got to do a better job going back. And so now that we know that what we built in was not enough, we'll fix it and go forward. So we got to take responsibility for last week, and if the shoe was on the other foot and it was one of my competitors, I would expect the same kind of penalties. So we'll move on and we'll try to win this week. But it's tough when it's a harsher. It's not a harsher penalty. It's the same penalty. It just affects teams differently whether they had a win or did not.
Okay.
No, he didn't. He agreed that it was worthy of a penalty. I asked him what's his honest opinion. Was this a judgment call? Was it what? And he says it wasn't right. So.
Okay, we'll take our next question from Hank, and then Matt over to Dustin, and finish up in the back.
And to be fair, it wasn't right at that moment. We didn't start the race with an illegal car. It worked its way that way. And when I say it worked its way, it was so close. But so close doesn't matter. It was still over the line. So, I hate the position I'm put in. I hate the position he's put in. We just didn't allow for running into the wall with 5 laps to go. We didn't allow for the dirt and the grime to get in there and loosen those things up as bad as it did. And it's just, it's unfortunate.
Hank Kurz with AP. Denny, how much of this penalty, and Matt was in here earlier, and you just kind of talked about just kind of the minuscule nature of going from legal to illegal. How much of that is kind of dancing on the line and trying to get it right up to the point where it's cool and going over, and how much are you more likely to dance on that line when you already have a win?
I think you're willing to dance on it no matter whether you're in or not. I think that you probably, if you checked every car in the field, I'm willing to bet that it would be many cars that we're not gonna get through there. It's just we finished up front, so we got the treatment, but as we should have. So, I think that the reason people work in those areas is because there's speed there, and so that's why we always fight for every inch and every quarter and every thousandth of an inch on every part of the car. Whether it be under the car or above it. We fight for every inch because there's speed there. So this is it's a tough game, and you got to be willing to take the consequences when you pass over that line that gets drawn in the sand.
Next question from Matt, just behind you.
Matt Weaver, AutoWeek.com. So given what you said about how close this was to being legal or illegal, what is your reception or response to fans who say that this is cheating?
How many wins does Richard Petty have? 200? One of those was with the big block. So does he really have 199? Listen, my advice to those who say this or that is all the old school fans that have been watching NASCAR for forever. Your driver cheated at some point in their career, and they got away with it. And the difference is it was inches, not thousands, because they don't measure that stuff back then. It's just a tighter box that we live in today, and the engineers and the crew chiefs are so smart that they fight for that little bit because they know it can make the difference in the smallest of deficits on the racetrack. So, I'm going to tell my crew chief to keep fighting for every inch or square inch of that car to be the best. But it's, it makes no difference to me. I know that I could line up with IROC cars at Darlington, and I'm going to have an advantage there.
Okay, we'll go next to Dustin and then finish up with Mark.
Dustin Long, NBC Sports. You said earlier that you're fine with taking away wins, and I wanted to ask you is because some people see it as a black and white situation, illegal regardless, to take the win away. When you say you take away wins, can you kind of define how, in what situations you view, or are you more black and white if it's over, take it away regardless? And secondly, with your role in the Drivers' Council, is this something that will be discussed? Is this something that the Drivers' Council can have any kind of influence on as NASCAR looks at this issue for next year?
Yeah, for sure. And I think that we brought something up, maybe in the off season I thought was a really good idea is, taking away points that you've already earned for the playoffs, above and beyond, not getting the points for that particular race. But, say you've got to win, that win now goes away. So those 5 points go away. So I think that, I'm all for harsher penalties for parole violators. You know what I mean? If you do it on a constant basis, you definitely should be penalized for it. And as far as, whether you should take away wins, black or white, or be subjective, it's tough because this particular part of the car is, I don't know if it's really black and white. There's been others that have been very gray, and they've said, okay, that's good, and then ours is not good. And now, given my crew chief said it was enough to where he was satisfied with the penalties. So I think that it's a very tough line. I don't know what the line is, where you take wins away, but obviously I think there should be parts of the car maybe that they distinguish it. Your motor, your tires, maybe rear suspension, stuff like that. Major items that maybe wins get taken away, or aero advantages that probably should be taken away as well. Yeah, I mean, there's things you can do. Yeah, there's things you can do to make it harsher. But listen, it's tough for me up here. I'm up here advocating for harsher penalties. So we'll see where it goes.
Danny, we'll take our last question in the back from Mark.
It's NBC 12 from here in Richmond. When you come off an incident like this, what's it do for your psychology going into this week? And what I mean by that is, does it make you kind of hungry to get out there so there's something else to talk about the next week, or is it just kind of business as usual for you?
Yeah, it's a ton of motivation for sure. And trust me, this is not what I wanted to talk about coming to my home track for sure. Especially after our weekend that was fantastic. And, it just, that part of it stinks, but also there's tons and tons of motivation that will be behind us this week to go out there and perform well. And, so far through the practices, I think, we're pretty good shape.
Thank you for your time. Good luck
Thank
this
you.
weekend.